hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Huskies Hockey Podcast, as a new era in Huskies hockey is officially kicked off, as what was probably the world's worst secret was finally unveiled here over this last weekend, with the season being over and Wisconsin's surprising run to the championship game. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But in the meantime, we got some pretty exciting news.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Nick Oliver, the new coach of your St. Cloud State University Huskies. As I tweeted out earlier, right after the Larson news dropped, my 1A, B, and C for who should be the next head coach of the Huskies. And the first, thanks to Biddy for pointing this one out, the first Husky head coach to have hair since 2005. So no longer a chrome dome here at the helm at SCSU. So, Andrew, how we feeling?
Quick correct. I mean, Motzko had some hair left when he started the job in 05. It's just he ended up with no hair.
Okay, so are we going the 06, 07 then is kind of when everything started?
I think I saw a picture of him from like 2010, 2011, and he was still putting his best follicle effort forth then. So Larson, certainly he was hairless from his entire tenure. But yes, not only is Oliver, who I am thrilled is the new Huskies men's hockey coach, not only has hair, but a nice, thick, lush head of hair, I should say. So just based on that alone, I am excited, and I bet the barbers in the St. Cloud area are as well. Maybe there could be like a tie-in, like a marketing tie-in, now that we do have a coach who needs some regular hair maintenance in place.
Yep. There we go. We had the press conference for officially introducing Oliver. And before we get to the press conference, I gotta have like a mini rant. And I'm sorry, but this is
what this show is for.
Like, this has kind of been I wanted to set like all of the records straight about the whole battery throwing incident and like what actually happened during that tenure, because it wasn't exactly that people were pulling batteries out of the little portable fans that they had as giveaways and throwing them onto the ice. They were just throwing the whole fan onto the ice, and then it slammed on the ice. And then as everything broke apart, batteries and plastic chunks and everything just kind of kept flying all over the place. So we were tossing, and I say we as in I didn't. I actually still have my fan somewhere. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if it still works, but I will say that we're not savages, like picking it apart and then just keeping the fan and tossing the batteries. I mean, the batteries were probably the most expensive part of that toy, but fans were throwing the whole kit and caboodle out on the ice and slamming, and then it was just the pieces that were flying. Because I remember like all of the clanking like of the plastic and the shattering, and it was obviously, and it reverberates all throughout the National Hockey Center. So it was that memory sticks on. Batteries when they hit the ice don't make that noise.
And as Oliver in the press conference was describing, I don't think he referred to it as the battery game, but he just referred to it as he remembered the fan giveaway. But the energy in that building, which is one way to put that, what all went down that night. But that seemed to not only leave an impression in your mind, being part of the in the fans. I was not at that game myself.
Oh wow, really?
Say. I was at the 07, the next game in that series, or in the against the Gophers, the Brocklehurst game. So I remember
we know
the
that game
incident.
well.
Yes, we named Herbie in small part because of that game. But yeah, it seemed to also leave quite the impression on Oliver himself as a 15-year-old visiting St. Cloud. I'm not even sure. I think they've changed that rule. I don't think you can contact recruits until like 16
Correct.
or 17 now.
Yeah.
So that tells you that it's a bit of a dated incident 20 years ago, almost. But it left an impression on him, and just that 06, 07 sort of peak attendance, not only in St. Cloud State, but early across the country for most sports. Just those packed buildings, and Holly Schreiner touched on that as well in a different part of the press conference about how to getting those days to return, just with the we don't want to have shenanigans like throwing fan giveaways of fans, to be very clear. We don't want to have that, like throwing stuff on the ice return, but just the packed house, 6,000 plus kinds of crowds, the ones where, yeah, a potential recruit's going to be in that building and just kind of fall in love with the place with an atmosphere like that. I thought that was not just a throwaway story about how Oliver first came to campus, but also just what the kind of peak of St. Cloud State hockey, just from a fan experience standpoint, can be. And if there's going to be a guy that can return us to that, I think an alum like Oliver, who has experience firsthand of those days, that was one of the things I didn't expect that to come out in the press conference, but
right.
gave us a nice little nostalgia boost for fans of our approximate age, let's say. And and to hear Schreiner kind of acknowledge that it's not quite at that level and hasn't been for a while, but that there's the hope and the desire to get back to that. And you're not just tabbing Oliver here as a warm, fuzzy nostalgia bump. This guy is a rising star in the coaching ranks at the NCAA level. For St. Cloud to be proactive and be able to wait out the situation that we had to see this last couple of weeks when Wisconsin made the surprise run. But St. Cloud was not going to rush this, and that's to their credit, especially with like the portal opening the same day that this press conference. I'm sure that wasn't ideal when the Larson news of his exit was official. But it was the right move. They were wise to wait, because that meant that your, as you put it, 1A, 1B, 1C candidate, I didn't know if I didn't have the subsection letters next to it, but he was always my preferred candidate. And as long, and like last week, we're like, this is kind of getting a little, I don't know, I'm a little less confident. But if it ended at that place where we wanted it to end, which is to say that what Oliver would have this press conference introducing him as the coach, then it was all worth it. And yeah, well, I have more to talk about with the press conference, but you go ahead. I've been talking for a while.
Oh, well, and I was just kind of looking back at that, and that was game 2 of what turned out to be a 15-game unbeaten streak for the Huskies. 2-2 tie against North Dakota. That game, or then it was a 5-5 tie at Minnesota. Okay, so it was game 3. It was 3-3 tie. And then after that, they won all throughout the month of December, and then the next series in January. So that game and the band, the fans being tossed onto the ice was really jump started the program and jump started that year. Went on quite the run.
Well, I think from my perspective, I mean, that was the season after the 8-7 game, which I think that was kind of a jump start as well, or even just the second half of Motzko's first year in 05-06. first half was, it was almost living up to the expectations of kind of a rebuilding. I think they were 8th or 9th place after the first half was done, but then went on a run in the second half, came within the WCHA title game of making the NCAAs. And then I think they were carrying that momentum forward into the 06-07 season. And then, as you said, starts really hot, and that 2 Gopher ties were part of that. And then by the second half of the season, they were, I think, in that February series with the Gophers, the Huskies might have been ranked number 1 in the country. Because again, as you said, they were red hot coming into the coming into the second half that year. They were at least in the top 3, I'm sure of that. And I remember that Friday or that February series. I don't remember I had to go back to the Times, and Alan Spock's write-up included that they were throwing not fans onto the ice, but actual dead Gophers. For some reason, I remember it being stuffed animals. I didn't know those literally dead animals that were thrown on the ice, which is funny. But I do remember too that Kurtz. So Lucia was very upset about that, probably rightfully so.
Yeah, rightfully so.
It's a safety issue. He said something in the Allensbach article referred to it. I could go digging. I had limited time today, but that Lucia disparaged St. Cloud's academic standards as an institution in some of his comments post game. Buried the hatchet with Morris Kurtz, but Morris Kurtz, the AD at the time, was very out in front of trying to settle the fans down, the students in particular, which I think that had the reverse effect of kind of just energizing the entire fan base, students and non-students alike. And that was the year that those playoff series were sellouts as well, which is a rarity because students would have to pay their own way to get into those playoff games. So that was like, again, that you're talking about like fan interest, student interest. It obviously helped that the university's enrollment was peaking around that same time too, but those are good days to try to look back on and see if we can channel that kind of energy again, because packed buildings, successful team, playoff runs, these are the kinds of things that we want to see more of. And like I said, a guy like Oliver who can kind of bridge the gap between a couple of different eras, not only as in his playing career at St. Cloud, but just his more recent coaching tenure under Larson. Hopefully he's a good guy that can kind of bring us back to some of those good old days. And but yeah, just reading about that incident and going back to that, again, 20 years, I've forgotten some of those details, but it is always fun to go back and relive some of those memories.
Well, and I remember back Morris Kurtz, I mean, back in the early aughts too, when, obviously had the Hardigan, Arneson, tandem and whatnot. Like when St. Cloud made it to like number 1 in the country for the first time, in those years, he really wanted to put we got to really kind of curb some of the vulgarities and some of the what's going on with the dog pound, because I mean, like the dog pound back then too was incredibly vicious, vile. Like it was a rough place for like opponents goaltenders wouldn't even actually go near the boards over there because they just had that kind of a reputation. So he kind of wanted, especially as St. Cloud got better hockey, he wanted to kind of clear a little bit of that up. But just kind of going through the USTRO rankings here. Minnesota was 2 in the nation, and St. Cloud was 4 in the country. And then at the end of that series, because the Huskies did sweep that series later in the year, and Huskies ended up 2 that next week, and Minnesota was 4, so they flip-flopped positions.
They
Notre
were
Dame
never
was number
one.
one.
They're never ranked number one in that season.
In that season, I don't think so. I'd have to. I wish I could just go like next poll in USCHO, but that would be user friendly.
You don't want to spend as much or any more additional time on USCHO than you need to. Again, my memory can make the details a little fuzzy. I kind of thought they're always been number one in my heart, so maybe that's why I thought that maybe that's number one in that series.
So, other thing about the press conference, I mean, we're supposed to be like a television and mass communication schools. Let's get a mic that works. Like right away in that press conference, I was like, oh, this is not going to help the St. Cloud budget cuts crowd that we can't afford microphones now either. So that was a little bit tough to listen to at first, but it got better. Whatever fix needed to happen got a little bit better. But overall, I could. It was really nice to hear, obviously, from Oliver. I did notice that I felt like Oliver and Holly Schreiner maybe danced a little bit around some of the NIL questions and didn't give like just kind of straightforward answers when it comes to that, which is probably for the best. But overall, I think you can tell that Oliver's really excited about this and really excited about the opportunity and coming back. And, overall, that's what I'm very happy for, obviously, is to have a coach who, does love the program, loves the institution, and is ready to kind of hit the ground running. And obviously he has to. He's going to come in full bore now. And, we'll talk a little bit about the portal and some of the losses here St. Cloud State has endured so far, but it's overall, it must have been kind of a whirlwind last 72 plus hours or so for Oliver, but obviously happy he's here, and I'm really excited about the future of the program.
Same. I was, the technical difficulties aside, I was impressed by the press conference. There's only so much you can read into a press conference, but I mean, it makes a good first impression, at least with the new coach. And Oliver certainly looked the part of a head coach. Second youngest in NCAA Division I men's hockey, but it didn't strike me like this guy is like inexperienced. Like he's going to need to learn, how to speak to the media, things like that. Like he seemed seasoned. I'm sure his time at a program like Wisconsin, but then like, especially with like as a head coach in the junior ranks has given him some good practice with that. But he looked and sounded every bit the part of a D1 hockey coach and was able to inspire some confidence in a fan like myself, where that's really what I'm looking for with like a get to know you press conference. Obviously we knew of Oliver. It's not like we need to be acquainted with his resume because we're familiar with it. But this is obviously a brand new role for him in St. Cloud and at the D1 level as a head coach for the first time. Just the off the bat comments and his demeanor, presentation just was impressive. And the same goes with Schreiner. Same goes with President Tomso, I thought, where I decked out in the SCSU jersey. But these are, I was a little surprised that we got the names of the entire search committee that Schreiner divulged, including like Ben Hanowski was a name that was mentioned. A lot of alumni seemed to be in attendance at the press conference as well. I think Oliver mentioned Joe Molinar by name during the press conference at one point. And so that was
Sidney Wolf also at least pointed out that Spencer Meyer was there too.
Yeah. And that was one thing that was encouraging, just the process of how St. Cloud came to land on Oliver and to focus on it was through a lot of feedback from alumni and other interested people in the hockey program going back many years. This was a candidate that seemed to rise to the top of the heap based on the recommendations from the most important kinds of references that Schreiner was trying to solicit. And so it was similar to Yellow-Suo's press conference last year, where I thought it was just an impressive get to know you session. And it gives me the confidence that, you're not winning any games here. You're not winning, making any NCAA tournaments based on a press conference. But what you're doing at least is giving us confidence that the program's in good hands. And from that perspective, I thought they passed with flying colors. We're going to find, as far as how Oliver is going to be as like a in-game coach, those are going to, similar to like how Yellow-Suo, we needed a season to find out even that, I don't think that we know exactly all of what Yellow-Suo brings to the table, especially from her perspective, like recruiting. We know a little bit more of that with Oliver because of his more lengthy experience. Yellow-Suo had the 1 year as assistant under Adolski. Oliver was there for a little bit more time, and his time in juniors as well. So we have a little bit more to go on in terms of like a track record, at least St. Cloud State relevant track record. But still, there's a lot that we're going to learn about, how's Oliver's power play? What's his preferred power play setup? How aggressive is he? His overtime personnel decisions, are they going to be any different than the previous head coach in St. Cloud? These are all the kinds of unknowns that we're going to find out as we watch these games for this first year and beyond. Just kind of getting to know the whole package when it comes to his head coaching prowess. So we don't know a lot about all of those kind of details. That's kind of the fun of being a fan, is that we can find out in real time and form our own opinions about them. But just from what you need to at least do is just kind of instill some confidence and like give me like an kind of feeling. Like we hired the right guy. The program's in the best possible hands it could be. From that perspective, I think the St. Cloud hit a home run, not just with the hire, but with the introduction of him. And also just the confidence level this week. So we got the Oliver hiring. The contract terms were announced, reported 7-year deal, which is a little surprising on its length, and $440,000. I'm assuming that's starting salary. I'm sure there's some built-in raises along the way. Based on Hatton's reportage, because we saw like the number, what was it, 410, 420, something like that for Larson. I think Hatton, there was one piece of reportage that he had that number more closer to the 450 range. But so either a slight increase from Larson or right around that range. And he was making we were thinking about 210, 220 as an assistant at Wisconsin. So essentially doubling his pay. But, that's something that a school that's struggling financially, I don't think that they would necessarily go as long as the 7-year deal, which was, I thought, a little pleasantly surprising, is how I'll put it. And just the fact that they're able to pay a good premium for a guy like Oliver, at least roughly match what they were paying Larson. And the fact that you didn't need to do any sort of buyout to get out of Larson's contract, that was, I think, a blessing in disguise for St. Cloud. So that, and then coupled with the announcement that the university made also this week that they're reinstating several sports, men's and women's golf, I think one of the cross-country teams as well. All these sports were previously cut by previous administrations, but reinstating them. So it's kind of putting a little bit of a crimp in the narrative of St. Cloud being a poverty school, being one that's on tenuous footing when it comes financially. I don't think that narrative is entirely untrue, but at least these hints that we got this week, the major moves that we heard from the athletic department this week, those are the kind of good stories that we haven't been receiving. Usually it's those stories are those sports have been cut by the school, not reinstating them, which obviously takes money and a financial commitment, and you need to hire people, coaches, and all that. So it's not something that a school that's on its deathbed is about to make. That's not what that sort of that's not a move that school in that situation typically does. So this week I have like confidence in St. Cloud State's like financial situation in its athletics department, and these are new feelings, or at least feelings I haven't had in a while when it comes to SCSU athletics. So yeah, I mean, this is a good week to be a Huskies fan based on those kind of two major pieces of news. And it's bringing it back to Oliver. It's just I feel like I'm just excited. I can't wait for the season to start. It's totally different than if Larson was still the coach. In terms of we'd be excited and we'd be really kind of sweating through like this transfer portal situation. It'd be a lot different situation if Larson was still here. But in terms of my expectations for next season, the team might be even worse than what they were last year. As we get to the transfer portal news, it maybe is like expected to not be as good as they were last year, which was a mediocre team at best last year. But still, just a new coach. I think there's just a natural reinvigoration of interest, and the fact that it seems to be the guy that most fans wanted. It's going to give a level of excitement to this coming season that I think even, a not as impressive standing or win-loss record, let's say, I still think the newness of Oliver will still make this an enjoyable and exciting season to follow. So it's kind of given me a little of a boost in terms of just this, my overall fan interest. Now I have something to kind of track and get to know in the next year and obviously beyond. So yeah, I mean, this is exciting, and college hockey fan, the Frozen Four just ended. I can't wait for the season to start again. So this, in that sense, the school has won me over with this hire for sure.
Yeah, it's I think it just kind of reinvigorates and puts a new little a pulse on it. That's just kind of exciting. And when I'm looking at a 7-year contract, and yeah, like when I saw that, I was like, "Oof, that's you're putting a lot of faith in Oliver," and rightfully so. I think there was also some rumors and rumblings about some back and forth going on with the contract as well, and Oliver also, credit to him if that's the case, and doing some negotiating to get a little bit more security when it comes to that. But 7 years, when it comes to that, it's the first year, it's not going to be his staff either. We're retaining both assistant coaches, so they're still going to be there. And
Custer,
then
it probably sounds like Custer as well. He was part of that search committee, so I would assume he's going to be involved in some way.
How awkward would that be? In the search committee gets him hired, and it's like, thanks for getting me hired.
Okay,
bye.
Thanks for your service on the search committee. Now you can search for a new job.
Use your experience on the search committee to search yourself.
Talk about great experience.
But I also kind of look at that as well. You've got the rest of Larson's guys, quote unquote, and then you got 4 years of your guys to kind of prove. So you get a recruiting class, a full recruiting class as well. Now, is that still the same line of thinking? Nowadays, when everything can be so in flux with the transfer portal and there's a lot more, maybe not. But that's kind of when I look at that as that is a huge sign of approval and trust that you've got the right guy, and also locks up too, the money, as we talked about, as it's a good salary. It's I think a little bit more what Larson was making, and probably about what Larson would have made this next year anyway, with built-in raises and possibility. who knows where these salaries are going to end up going for coaches here in the future. So it's, locking that down now for a long-term contract. I think is a really good move. And Oliver's ability to talk and I think connect with some of the younger players makes me really excited for the future. I kind of want to get your take on, there were obviously a couple of comments and, talking about Larson and just kind of praising him for his work and thanking him and wishing him the best. Kind of what did you read from some of those comments from I would say mostly Holly, but also with Tomso? Did you get any type of a special kind of
I don't know where you're going with this. Maybe you should lead off.
Well, I felt that it was maybe a little bit more glazing than I would like. And maybe it's because of how the transfer portal, and maybe we can kind of turn into that right now of, taking, two of our top scorers and then also our top defender, and taking him with him to Minnesota. It's, I just kind of was like, I think you're kind of waxing poetic him a little bit too much from the guy who did spurn you. I thought just a quick little glib of, thank him. And maybe it's a little bit of also gussing up as like, hey, we need you on the schedule. We need the gate of the Gopher attendance. Which
again, I got the feeling that maybe Schreiner has read my attendance article because someone brought up the non-conference, mainly like, are you going to get the Gophers on the schedule again? And how like non-conference games can draw attendance. And she mentioned like, well, we have brought in BC and Michigan in recent years, and those didn't really draw that well, which is like exactly, I put that in my article, one of them at least. And just the importance of having the Gophers on the schedule would be a boon for attendance. So I thought the Larson comments, they seemed genuine. These are professional administrators who
maybe I'm just more spiteful.
They can get through an interview. So maybe they're just selling you a line and selling everybody a line. I don't know. I felt like it was, I don't think that I do think the Larson move surprised them. So I think they were committed to him, at least to the extent that maybe they weren't ready to re-up him this offseason, but I don't think that they were planning seriously on like firing him. So I do think the move was a surprise, and maybe there is a residual effect of, hey, don't steal too many of our guys. Don't take too many of them with you down to Dinky Town. And he's, I don't know, he's that other team's coach now. I don't really need to. And the amount of media hits that Larson has done since he's taken that job, I'm sure already surpassed the amount of media interviews that he did while he was in St. Cloud his entire tenure with the Huskies. He's been making the rounds on K-Fan, multiple K-Fan, like almost every K-Fan show, I think.
Multiple podcasts too.
So he's getting the full experience of what he signed up for down there. And that also comes with those heightened expectations. You don't make the playoffs at the NCAA tournament 3 straight years. See how those interviews the tenor of those interviews will be. Didn't really feel the feet to the flames in St. Cloud so much, but different story. Just ask Mr. Matsko how his last season went for the Gophers. But so I don't. It's not like it made me like queasy. It maybe made you queasier.
Well, maybe it was just the amount of questions about it that it was like I wanted more of the focus of the questions, I guess, on Oliver, where I thought maybe too many of them brought back around to Larson.
And like I said,
again, maybe I wanted like a WWF style promo of, a little more animosity right there. But, obviously me being a fan, I can do that. Whereas her in a position of power and, respect, probably can't
would be,
do that.
It would be a good thing if they were to get the Gophers back on St. Cloud's home schedule,
That's
which, Motzko fell far short of that during his tenure there. Different circumstances, though, a little bit. I mean, the way that it went down on Motzko's departure was a little bit different than Larson's. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, just if he's as great of a guy as we've heard reported, Larson I'm talking about, then he would be wise to make a trip to St. Cloud, and not even like every year, but at least like every other year. That would be nice.
How do you think he'll be received? Shower
when he comes back?
Yeah,
it's tough to say.
I mean, that was the thing with Motzko. It's always, I mean, with the circumstances of what happened, the tragedy with Motzko's family,
Correct.
Like that really put a damper on any type of, like, he can't really, I don't know. It was just kind of a unique, a terrible situation. And I think that kind of, I think that tempered down some of the rowdiness that could have happened with him coming back.
Agreed. And like Motzko, I did hear that Larson he's going to be maintaining his Sartell residence. So he'll be a commuter to his job. Motzko also did the same, lived in St. Cloud, not Sartell, but he was driving down. I think they gave him like a apartment down there. I don't think he had to like drive back and forth every day, but the perks that you get with the Gophers. So maybe Larson has something similar.
He got a dorm room.
I did see that he got like a car. He got like a company car, basically. Yep. But enough about the old guy. Why don't we talk more about?
And here I am doing the same thing. Actually, you know what? That's on me.
Enough glazing. We can go to the new guy, or at least the process I mentioned.
But seriously, I'm sorry. One more. Like, how do you think he will be? Like, will he be a shower of booze if he does come back?
I don't think a shower
if he does
of booze.
schedule.
I mean, first of all, if we're talking about the struggling attendance, there's not going to be a shower of anything. But we should hope
shower of batteries.
We should hope it's a showering of booze, because that means the place is packed and that fans are lubed up and it's a rowdy atmosphere. I mean, that'd be great. That's what we should hope for. But I don't know. He's something tells me not necessarily, especially like how it goes with the Gophers. If Larson brings the Gophers back to the, supervillain status, then they'd probably boo whoever the Gopher coach was, and extra because of his St. Cloud connection. If he just continues this sort of ho-hum, we're going to win 11 games a year, I don't know if that almost feels like punching down almost. So
that's true.
I don't know. So it might be dependent on how Larson does down there. It certainly doesn't sound like we're going to see them next year, this coming year. That schedule was put in place by Larson, and I don't believe the Gophers. I thought that the Huskies were supposed to owe them an exhibition game down in Mariucci, because they had one of those at the Herb a couple of years ago that I would have assumed would have been a reciprocal agreement. But so perhaps there's a exhibition, but if that were to be the case, that would be down in Minneapolis and not in St. Cloud. So it'll be a little bit until if we do get the return of Larson to St. Cloud, it won't be for at least 1 year. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that reception will go. But again, I'm hoping for a raucous one, because that just means that the excitement will be back in the building, and it'll be an excitement that Larson unfortunately wasn't able to sustain or create. However if you want to blame him for because the attendance issues started before he arrived, but he wasn't able to reverse those fortunes, and to the contrary, they got worse as his tenure progressed. So yeah, but that era is over. Larson is
close the book on it.
In a different conference, in a different county. It's the same state, but it's out of sight, out of mind. The new guys in town. So Schreiner's comments regarding kind of the process, talking about the search committee, which I thought were some interesting details. I'm wondering if we're going to get some more details in terms of, Sydney Wolf reported that Brett Skinner, who is still the USHL's Fargo Force head coach of the USHL, was the runner-up in the sweepstakes here to get the head coaching job, St. Cloud State. We saw the names like Jason Herder, Travis Winter as being guys that had interviewed for the job. I'm wondering if we're going to get a story of maybe more of that process, more of any of these like finalists or who all the names were. Because I think they mentioned 7 names were mentioned as guys that had interviewed for the job. We knew some of those names, but not all of them. So it'll be interesting if we can, maybe Sydney Wolf, if you're bored, you want to get that story cooking. Like
she's got nothing to do right now.
Inside track. Yeah, nothing. This is a dead period of the calendar for her, I know. But it would be interesting to know how those, and again, as you mentioned, like contract negotiations with Oliver. Obviously, some of that's going to be information we're never going to know, but at least there's just like the process of who they were interviewing. And another nugget that Wolf had previously reported about the stipulation of having the assistants retained. Like if that did turn off any potential candidates, I care less about that now because we got our preferred guy in Oliver, and obviously he was okay with the current staff retained or him inheriting the current staff. But just some of those other machinations of how this all went down would be interesting, just because it was different. And looking or comparing this, let's say, to the Motzko exit / Larson hiring back in 2018, it's kind of like a giant subtweet of the Gophers in a sense. Like, this is how you respect other teams' postseason runs, waiting for Wisconsin to lose in the tournament. And that, I'm sure, was a longer timeline that they preferred, having to go all the way into April 11th or whatever it was until Wisconsin's season ended. A little bit different than sniffing around Motzko on the eve of the regionals and making the inroads in negotiations. Again, I don't know if those are official narratives at this point, but at least unofficially, it seems. I mean, even just with the timing of that, it like had to have some conversations had to have occurred prior to the actual end of St. Cloud's season for that timeline to be believed. St. Cloud was patient. They respected, and I'm sure that, they were talking with Oliver clearly, but, respecting the fact that they weren't going to make any announcement until Wisconsin's season was over. So I thought that was an interesting contrast just in the whole situation of, we've got a team, we've got a candidate. He's already hired. He's under contract with his current team, and we're going to respect that process. Let that play out before we make anything official. That was one thing that certainly stood out, at least just in retrospect of how this whole timeline of the Oliver hire, how it all went down. Quite the contrast from the last coaching change. That was that time just forced upon St. Cloud State in a little bit of a different circumstance. But any thoughts on that?
No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, kind of when it came to that.
That's where you like to hit the nail, right on the head.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I was just kind of perusing the just the article that was kind of updated for Oliver, and it was what I thought was also kind of a really nice touch was talking about Tom So seems really personable, and also talking about how important the alumni and the of not only that, but like the student athletes, and how many of them were also in at the press conference and the alumni that were there and really kind of setting all that out. And that was kind of I think a really nice little touch to be like how important it is that you guys are, here, you care about it. And you can tell that Tomso really understands how big hockey is for this institution in general. And I think, this kind of shows how much he's taken it seriously and how much he's really pushing for success, because I think he knows that, success for the hockey team is really going to start funneling over to, I think, other parts of the institution as well. But, the big thing with the attendance, you got to get students back in the building, and just kind of getting all of that together is going to be kind of their major hurdle. And we'll see what attendance does this year. So I'm, seeing a lot of reinvigorated fan base and seeing that everyone seems pretty excited when it comes to that. Ben Simon was the one that was the Iowa Wild assistant that was also interviewed. That was a little bit of a surprise.
Who actually was at the Frozen Four and went to the Hobie Baker award presentation. It was like a whole award show because they were awarded the Richter Award, Hockey Humanitarian Award, and a couple of the other awards as well. And the Humanitarian Award went to Meg Simon, who I think she went to Middlebury. I think it was a D3 school, but she mentioned in her speech, her parents, can't remember what the mom's name was, but Ben Simon, she mentioned it. I'm like, really? I had not known that name until I think it was McMahon reported that he interviewed for St. Cloud's job. And I kind of just did a quick Google, and that's her dad. So she's a D1 or D3 hockey player herself, and just won a nice award. But yeah, kind of looking into his background, more of an AHL coaching background for him. We don't know if like Rude and or Enga had an official interview. You'd think that at least one of them probably did. So it'd be interesting to know like who else, or if there was guys that turned them down and didn't were scared off by some of the conditions as they were, or just the job in general. If they reached out to a guy, if they called Raboyne, I'd be interested to know if that phone call was placed, even though that was probably unlikely to warrant some interest or gain some interest from Raboyne based on his turning the Gophers down as well, reportedly. So just those, if that story comes out, I'd be interested to kind of hear the back channels on how it all kind of came together, and like when they kind of made the decision. Obviously, not making it official, but when they made that decision, was it after the regionals that Wisconsin won? Was it somewhere between the regionals and the Frozen Four? Like, how quick did they make the decision that he was going to be the guy? And it was just a matter of when Wisconsin lost that they were going to make it official. Yeah. So any of you intrepid reporters want a good story, that would be a good one, because it's again, we might not have a bigger St. Cloud State story, hockey story, like in this decade. And we've got,
once we win the Natty, that'll be the bigger story.
Exactly. And maybe we've got the guy to do that, to bring us to that promised land.
Well, he did hit the ground running with Finn McLaughlin from the Gophers, who did commit to St. Cloud State out of the transfer portal. So a rare Finn on Finn trade. I guess we can look at that as Finn Loftus has exited the portal. A little bit of a surprise name for me. I was a little bit surprised to see him. Obviously, Bernovic and Hendricks, those two we expected to be in the portal, as well as Barrett Hall. Hall has not gone as officially committed anywhere as of yet. So I guess he's keeping his options open. But both Bernovic and Tanner Hendricks leaving following Brett Larson to Dinkytown.
And Loftus, I don't know if you mentioned, Loftus is also going to the Gophers. Hall, as Brad Schlossman, North Dakota beat writer, extraordinaire reported it's not going to be Minnesota, Barrett Hall's landing spot. There's a numbers game, obviously, to keep in mind with the Gophers. We did see not only McLaughlin, but other Gophers from last year's roster. Several of them entered the portal. One name that I was mildly surprised St. Cloud didn't pick up. Like, if you're going to say that St. Cloud was going to pick up a Minnesota defenseman today from the portal, I thought it'd be Leo Gruba, who was a previous St. Cloud commit and played under Oliver in Fargo during Oliver's 1 year there. But he ends up going to Notre Dame, which is a bit of a surprise.
The guy will do anything to not play for Larson.
Apparently. Or to St. Cloud for that.
Or St. Cloud, I guess.
Gruba, his father playing for the Huskies in the early 90s. That was one legacy that got away. One, however, that turned around from a current Gopher to a current Husky. As you mentioned, Finn McLaughlin, his dad, Kyle McLaughlin, played for the Huskies in the late 90s, captained the team in the 98-99 season. Not to be confused, whenever I hear Kyle McLaughlin's name, my immediate picture is Kyle MacLachlan, the actor in like a bunch of David Lynch movies, like Blue Velvet. Different guy, as it turned out, with a different last name. But Finn McLaughlin, solid stay-at-home type defenseman. If it is going to be a Finn for Finn move, I agree with your surprise at Loftus, and I especially am surprised that he's going to the Gophers. I mean, that it's not surprising that he's following Larson, I'll say that. My surprise comes from certainly after Henricks leaves, which was more of the writing was on the wall there. Whenever we first heard about the Larson news, like our immediate thoughts on transfer portal losses were any of the drafted guys. Bernovic, Hall, Henricks, chief among them, and all three of them to the portal. So those weren't real surprises. So especially if Henricks leaves, and even if Henricks was staying around, you'd think that Loftus might have like inside chance at like first pairing defenseman for St. Cloud. Like I could see if Henricks was still around and Larson was still in St. Cloud, I could see like a Loftus Henricks pairing as your top pairing defenseman next year.
Sure.
For your opening draw, the season opener. But I did see something where it was a Gopher account that's like, well, yeah, Loftus, of course, like kind of overhyping him. Oh, great high school career. I went to UMass and now to St. Cloud. And like, okay, easy there, Tiger. But he's like, yeah, he should slot in nice on the third pairing for the Gophers. Which, yeah, and that's decent depth you have in the blue line of a guy like Loftus, who we were impressed with in St. Cloud, especially in the second half of the season. I think he really emerged. He was on a good upward trajectory. Didn't certainly come in to St. Cloud. He didn't even beginning of the year. He might have gotten scratched a game or two. I mean, he was not a regular presence right away in the St. Cloud's roster. And he was really kind of starting out on that third pairing in St. Cloud, which is a far cry from third pairing on a deep, let's say, Gopher blue line as it currently stands. So, I mean, that's an opportunity that he might be sacrificing 8 to 9 minutes a game in playing time. And good luck getting power play opportunities where he was kind of a regular on the power play as the season wound down in St. Cloud this year. So that was one where I thought, I mean, again, I get it if he's just enamored with Larson and he wants to continue playing under him. But just from an opportunity standpoint, it feels like Loftus is kind of leaving something on the table, making this move. I'm going to be missing those Bernovic one-timers. I'll sure miss that. Hall, you kind of were on this beat in the second half of the season, really kind of tailed off, especially in his goal-scoring production. Was it just one goal in the second half? I mean, he's putting up points, but his goal-scoring ability really kind of dried up.
For some reason, I want to say it was one goal in his last 14 games.
It was in Omaha, which was it was just that. And then it was the Cactus Cup, and I don't think he scored in the Cactus Cup. So I think he just had one goal scored in the second half. I mean, still put up
two. He scored in each Omaha game.
Okay. So 2. All right. So 1 series outside of 1 series.
Yeah.
It doesn't score in the second half. I mean, he still put up 30-ish points. I don't know if he actually did crack 30.
28.
So, I mean, it's a good season. But the fact that we don't know his landing spot now, you know, he's a loss. I mean, you look at that stat sheet from last year, counting the seniors that just graduated, or guys like Gross goes to the NHL. A lot of your top scorers that, you know, Gross, Hall, Brnovic, all gone. Henricks obviously didn't play in a ton of games based on his injury, but from a talent standpoint, huge loss. So, you know, Loftus was up there on the depth chart or the scoring sheet, so to speak. Your top returning, I don't know if you've looked, you know, who the current Husky, so not a graduate and not someone that transferred out, you know, who your top scorer that remains a Husky as of today is?
Okay, so we had Gross, who
He gone.
is he gone.
Scoring goals in the NHL, we should say.
Scoring goals. He scored 1.
Or at least just one.
But he scored the game tying goal as well, but it was called back for offsides.
I missed that. Well, we'll count that as like in you know, just in spirit. It's a goal.
So it was so he was just out. I don't think he was the one offsides though. So it was kind of a bummer. But yeah, that would have been his first multi-goal game too, because it was in the same game against the Avalanche. So then we had Brnovic. Are we doing goals or points?
Points.
Okay. Then we had Brnovic. Then we had Hall. Was Max? Smoke had quite a few. Then Ernest or Thorson.
Which one do you want to pick? Because you mentioned the name.
I'm going. I think Thorson had more goals. Ernest had more points. So I'll go Ernest.
Thorson is the correct answer. Thorson had more goals. And
he had more both. Okay.
11 and 9 for 20. Ernest had 7 and 11 for 18. Rode also had 18. Smolinski had 18, but he's in the ECHL now. Loftus had 16. So, I mean, other than that line or the line that ended the year, they didn't play the entire year together, but the Thorson, Ernest, Rode line, that's the only guys still active in the top 10 scorers. Because even guys like Wiley graduated, Ingram graduated. You got to go down to Werner Miettinen at 12 for your, I guess, he's your current 4th leading scorer for the Huskies, other than those that Thorson, Ernest, Rode combo. So that's a lot.
That's quite a bit. And, you know, at the same token, you know, we're looking at some of the transfer portal. I mean, you have, I know Arizona State, I don't know if, you know, they've had essentially their whole decor hit the transfer portal. So, and they've had a couple of people sign as well at North Dakota. So North Dakota is going to be looking so every team is going to be going through this. This isn't unique to St. Cloud. Maybe the circumstances are that they're all going to Minnesota. But at the same time, you're going to have a lot of this change, and it's how Oliver and the staff is going to kind of deal with it. I was kind of looking at my old tweets when it
never a
came,
good idea.
And you know, one tweet that I had from 2023, I think it was just talking about how bad the penalty kill has. It's like, how much did Oliver, you know, have a hand in the penalty kill, because it really tanked after that. So I kind of went back. Yeah, the 2023 penalty kill was at 77%. This year, I think it ended at 77% as well. But when Oliver was was here as an assistant, it was, you know, in the 80s every year. I think the low it hit was 79, but I think it also hit 86% too. So, and also the power play too was always clicking too. So I'm excited for some new looks on the penalty kill and the power play. The penalty kill has really been a sore spot, and that goes with a lot of our defense as well being kind of rough at certain points as well. So it's it's kind of exciting to as you said, have like something new to kind of look at how the power play is going to look. Is that, and the stats have shown that when he is on staff, at least that things have worked out well for him. So I'm really excited for that train to kind of keep rolling.
Yeah, and so the portal opens today. We're recording this on Monday the 13th. It remains open for 2 weeks. And the tightened window is kind of the reason why we've had a record amount of portal activity today. 250 names plus have been in the portal, which is a record. And we've gotten some guys with landing spots already, which raises some questions. Maybe I think we have a question about that. We can get to that a little bit later. And you'd think that with St. Cloud's losing at least the set that we've mentioned already, Brnovik, Hall, Henricks, Loftus. Can't forget about James Gray, who was previously in the portal you can enter as a grad student. So I guess the only real question there, obviously, if Gray's going to land somewhere, but Barrett Hall, that's the one that might not be. Sounds like not going to Minnesota, but we'll see where he lands. And if there's going to be any other losses from St. Cloud's perspective. The thing with now with apparently Hall's not going to the Gophers, and then we saw also another surprise, the Hawk Huff decommit from last week, writing on the wall there that he's following Larson. Nay. Goes to St. Thomas instead, which was a bit of a shocker to me. And he might have ran into the numbers game at the Gophers because he's slated to come in this fall. And with the house settlement kind of dictating roster caps and the Gophers needing to comply with that, it just might have run into some numbers game. And at that point, I want your take on that. So if the Gophers are out, meaning he can't play for the coach that he committed to in Larson, is St. Thomas an upgrade than from St. Cloud as a hockey program? I mean, same conference now. So
I would say the only thing I could think of is obviously the facilities. I mean, sure, you could put $13 million into the Herb, but I mean, you're not getting to the Penny Anderson arena. So I mean, that instance, the thing I don't understand, if all of that happened, and this is complete speculation, I want everyone to know that Andrew and I, or at least me, maybe Andrew does, but we don't have any inside information when it comes to any of that. A lot of this is all speculation. I'm not saying that I've got sources all over the place. I don't even want to strive to be that type of college hockey insider. That doesn't appeal to me. I don't need things for clicks.
Correct.
If we wanted to make this podcast for the masses and for growing our brands or anything like that, we'd do so many things differently. But we want it just to be our thing for the fans, for the diehards, and for St. Cloud State fans, and I guess Dan Jacobson. But that's kind of the important thing to know. But when I look at it as if Hawk Huff was looking to commit to the coach that recruited him, if you were Larson, would you take Hawk Huff or Finn Loftus? If it comes down to a numbers game, that doesn't make any sense why you wouldn't take a prospect with a much more upside than take possibly 2 years of Finn, who, you've already worked with, but it feels like kind of a weird trade to make, a weird trade-off if you're capped by that roster.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree.
Bizarre.
And it might have been a ridiculous, why would anyone pick St. Thomas over St. Cloud? I don't need to reiterate the many advantages that the Tommies have when it comes to a school and facilities, and any school basically has better facilities than St. Cloud does. Especially now with the arena torn up in the midst of a arena upgrade. Can't really play hockey in the facility right now, so I think that means any place is better than the Herb. But just wait until like October when they open it. It's going to be a new, shiny, updated Herb, and we shall. That's when we're gonna keep the Hawk Huffs of the world from bolting to current now NCHC rivals. But
well, now definitely rival, right? Our natural rival or whatever they call him.
Designated rival. Yeah.
Designated
not travel
rival,
partner. That's a side rant for me. I keep hearing the phrase travel partner. That is an ECAC specific term where those teams will travel together on their road trips. And it should not be used in the NCHC term because no one is traveling with. I thought we're going to CC in Denver as a road trip with St. Thomas, which is kind of what they would do with these ECAC travel partners. So designated rival is the term that we should be using, not travel partners.
After this Frozen 4, I am really starting to get sick of the term blue blood. So like we can I would love to retire that.
And I think by the 10th time I saw the joke on Twitter that Nick Oliver is going to be the Gophers head coach in 6 years or whatever, that got a little old. It's funny the first few times, but
I did.
Okay,
I did
use
put
the
that
line
in
now.
there.
I
did put that.
But you were the first one, so it counts for you. But then everyone else is just a copycat. These are
so
the
I'm
rules,
just a
and I don't make them
trendsetter
up.
is actually what it comes
Correct.
down to. So, yeah. Anything else portal related?
I will say, well, I'll say I expect St. Cloud to be more active here. Again, just opening for business today, so I would assume that there was going to be more. And Oliver's been head coach officially for like 24 hours at this point, so I'd assume that we're going to get some activity there. Again, with the Gophers, because they're squeezing out some of their guys to make room for the Huskies that they just poached. Just a couple of names on the spreadsheet to maybe circle in red. Max Rude, Eric's son, is in the portal. He's a defenseman. He played 2 years of the Gophers. He would have 2 years left. August Falloon, also 2 more years of eligibility, sophomore this past year for the Gophers. He is from St. Cloud originally. I mean, their stat lines aren't going to wow you, but just with those clues, especially Rude, and who knows, maybe you don't want to play for your old man. Not everybody's Tony Lucia, but that one, especially if Rude's apparently sticking around, that might be a natural landing spot for him. And same with Falloon, if he wants to be closer to home. That's a possibility. I would not be surprised if one or both of those will be linked to St. Cloud here in the next coming days. But I mean, the list of the whole portal right now is just, it's too big to really kind of go one by one. Like there's so many names and so many like intriguing stat lines, 30-point scorers here and 20-point defenseman here, and intriguing prospect here, like, and then you blink and then they committed to RIT. So it's moving at a rapid pace, and it's kind of academic just to kind of go over like a wish list, but just kind of looking at some of those obvious St. Cloud connections, either SCSU or just the area in general. And again, those would not be surprising moves from that perspective. But I don't know, anyone else like on the portal radar for you that you are especially kind of keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, so much of this is all going to be, throwing spaghetti at a wall at this point, just trying to see what sticks. And also, you don't get a full aspect of kind of what type of player they are when it comes to this. Like, I mean, when we got Finn Loftus, we didn't know a couple of games from UMass. Like, you don't really know what you're kind of getting out of that. But, obviously, the big thing is that, what I'm worried about is that we got to replace a lot of scoring. And also that our defense wasn't that great last year. And we had some issues there. So now, that's a lot of work that has to be patched together. And hopefully, that we've got a good recruiting class coming in as long as they all stick together. Because if that's the case, one big thing about their recruiting class is also that you might be leaned on quite a bit for scoring and for some of these opportunities. So,
and that might be like a plus.
Yeah, that might be a huge plus. Exactly.
If you're trying to retain, like we mentioned Hawk Huff, he's no longer in the fold, but plenty of other talent. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I haven't heard anything about officially decommitting when it comes to like Nolan Stevenson, who's Penticton's captain defenseman this year, who had committed several months ago. Jonas Sivertson as well from the WHL. And then from the forward ranks, Brock Such. I mean, there's quite a bit of talent. It was an intriguing class that I was excited to see. I might have missed one, but I think Huff is the only to have officially decommitted. And I'm sure that's one, it should be, and I am confident that it's one of the biggest priorities that Oliver's doing right now, is he's communicating with these guys to either solidify their commits or, I don't know, just get to know them and see what his options are, see what their options are, see how they're thinking about if they're still interested in coming in, like where their commitment level's at. Yeah, I'm sure the Enga and Rude and the assistants have been doing kind of that similar work in the last couple of weeks. You also have to wonder too, if Oliver's certainly made some inroads with guys that he recruited to Wisconsin. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some activity from like Wisconsin commits who might flip and are especially committed to Oliver and want to join him in St. Cloud. So, I mean, it works both ways. I haven't seen any Wisconsin entrance into the portal. Again, their season, just like Denver, went the longest out of any of the schools. So perhaps we'll see some activity from Wisconsin in terms of players entering the portal in the next few days. And you look at those players. If they pop up on the spreadsheet, those might be ones that Oliver has his eye on because of personal coaching experience of those players. So it's fun, kind of, anxiety producing, kind of. Just that's the big task at hand here. Obviously, I think the end goal with Oliver should not be, and I've said this in the last few weeks here, should not be above the 26-27 season. Yeah. To me, that's a secondary. That's kind of a gravy. Like if we can get like a fourth place finish out of this first year for Oliver, like, oh my God, like we might be starting to schedule that parade in the next couple of years. If that's going to be the result this year, I'm more looking at down the road and having Oliver give him the opportunity to build something. This first year can be a sacrifice. We might need to fall on the sword there and endure some ugly-ish hockey, let's say. But hey, that's whatever he's doing with roster management from now until the time the portal closes. That'll be our kind of first ideas of the kind of sell job that he can affect on guys in the portal, recruits, current players, because again, they've all got options now. Because Thorson and Ernest and Rowe, those are the current top three scorers, just because we don't see their names in the portal now doesn't mean that they can't enter in the next 2 weeks. So, I mean, the job is trying to keep those guys around as well. It's always, there's always going to be potential movement that you either got to snuff out, or you've got to actively bring new guys to the fold and just with the numbers, how they shook out today, it's on the negative side, meaning you need to replace the guys that you lost here. And so, yeah, the task is already at hand. It's like we're going 60 miles an hour already, and he's now just getting into the driver's seat with the car already in motion. But again, the very immediate next year isn't like my main priority. It's more the long. I'm more playing the long game here. Similar to kind of how I felt with the Yellow Suo's hire. Like this year was a frustrating one in many respects for the women's side, but the more that what we got to know of her this year from the X's and O's standpoint, and then once we get to know more about the recruiting side, I'm still pretty confident about that hire, even with kind of a rough first season from a wins and losses standpoint. Similar to Oliver, I think that this first year it could be bumpy, but I'm just more interested in kind of how he's planning like a future, like a 4-year plan here, and excited to see kind of where this all goes, and excited that we've got him in charge.
One thing that they also stressed in the press conference, Holly did really bring up that the hockey world is big, but it's also small. It's kind of that when it comes to that, I feel like there's probably a good possibility that Oliver has, when he was on the recruiting trail as well, for Wisconsin, he has some kind of a knowledge of the commits that were there. Like he runs across those names. I was like, okay, yep, I remember, seeing him, or, so I don't think it's going to be all new. And I think, people are going to know of him as well. So it's not like he was, completely standby or completely on the sidelines. So I think a lot of that is going to go a long way. And like you said, with the assistant coaches as well, trying to calm the waters, and because, they're essentially playing for a contract for next year, or the following season, I should say, because they're kind of on this 1 year, I guess, kind of trial with Nick Oliver. So kind of a weird situation there. So anything more about Portal or Oliver? Because I do want to get your thoughts on the Frozen 4 as you were in attendance. So
sure. I mean, we did have some questions, several emailed as well as tweeted.
Oh, that's right.
Questions. And those are pretty much all St. Cloud related. We could knock out those while we're on the topic and then do like a Frozen 4 recap. It's really up to you. On-air production meetings are always the best.
Yep. Let's do that. Who in the Portal intrigues you right now? That's kind of one where we talked about. It's kind of all up in the air. But just to throw a name out, I'll say Ben Musterbaugh from Union. 19 goals, 17 assists.
He was going to be my guy.
Points.
It's Mothersbaugh. No relation to Mark Mothersbaugh of Devo fame. But he had he's had 2 really good years at Union.
There we go.
Actually. And
from New Hampshire, no ties to anything, but I like that stat line. So get him here in Cardinal and Black.
Yeah, I would assume he's not going to go to the Huskies, but that would be a dream name. Jack Stockfish, maybe he's my guy from Holy Cross. He played at the Spengler Cup this year. It's kind of how I first got word of him. But similar kind of stat line to Mothersbaugh, between 30 and 40 points. I don't have my spreadsheet up right now. I should say the spreadsheet that I'm talking about is at APX Hockey. It's the Sydney Wolf tracker of the Portal. That is my preferred resource when it comes to all things college hockey transfer portal goings on. Yeah, Stockfish, 14 goals, 21 assists, 35 points this year for a good Holy Cross team in Atlantic hockey. So again, I'm sure he's a name that most teams would drool over. Yep. So maybe those are my home runs. I don't think those are necessarily realistic possibilities. But hey, we got a guy from UMass last year in Loftus. Yes, he has a Minnesota connection, being from the state, but there's a history of St. Cloud going out east and getting guys. So, and I'm sure some of these guys from a Atlantic team to go to the NCHC, I'm sure they'd be interested, or should be at least interested in joining the Conference of Champions.
There you go.
In the NCHC. How about that?
I will say, since you've had your fun facts with, Kyle, what's his name from Sex and the City, and
Kyle McLaughlin. He was the mayor on Portlandia.
There we go. Stockfish, Jack Stockfish. Stockfish is the name of the highest, I believe, chess engine for analyzing your chess games. You go to Stockfish. It's because I play a lot of chess, Andrew. And also,
is this a bit? I don't get it. Is this like a video game reference that I don't get?
Chess? How is chess a video game?
I don't know. Maybe they reference Stockfish in like a Mario Brothers version, and I just don't get the reference. You like to slip in the video game references.
No, this is over the board chess. I mean, I guess on the computer, so I guess you can call it a video game. But no, Stockfish is the engine that analyzes your games and then also like shows what the best move is. So like, remember Deep Blue back in the Gary Kasparov? Yeah, think of that, except now with all of the technological advances. Stockfish is like the highest iteration of chessbot, and basically is just crushes any human ever.
Do you know what the best chessbot is? Not Deep Blue.
No,
I don't even know the name of it. It's the computer that beats Kurt Russell at chess in The Thing. If you've ever seen that movie.
No, is that the one with Jeff Goldblum in it?
Jeff Goldblum is not in The Thing. It would be fun if he was in The Thing. The Thing, best.
He's in the Fly.
He's in The Fly. Right. Another very good horror film. I think that The Thing is the best horror film ever made.
Anyway, the candidates tournament is going on right now, and it's a tournament to decide who is going to play for the World Chess Championship that is in a couple of months.
Do we give Stockfish good luck, or do we want him to lose or to not succeed?
No, Stockfish is just the engine that is.
Well, that's not as fun. I thought that he was going to be like Deep Blue and he's going to knock off these great chess champs.
No, Stockfish would crush any human ever. Like, it's just like technology
is
far surpassed.
That's a dare for Gary Kasparov.
Oh, no.
Bobby Fischer, where are you?
Magnus Carlsen would get crushed by...
I just love that we can name multiple chess players.
Yeah, I mean, Gukesh right now is the world chess champion. But it's only because...
Anand, Anand, I believe he's another huge chess champ.
He's in the candidates tournament right now. Yep. Hikaru Nakamura is in it. You got Prague.
See, Dan Jacobson, who I met this weekend. Dan Jacobson did not, on his bingo board, did not have a 3-minute riff on professional chess. He did not have that on his bingo board this week.
So, how do we fix the portal to get out of the wild, wild west situation that we're in right now? And thanks, Clint. Now I have Will Smith in my head.
Yeah, it had to be the two wilds, not just the wild, because it's the wild west.
Wiki wild, wiki wild. Going straight to the wild. What happened to like Teresa and I? My wife and I were talking about this not too long ago. Like, what happened to like actual music and music tie-ins to movies? That kind of all went away, and it's kind of sad. Like, I mean, Will Smith obviously was big with the Men in Black and then in Wild Wild West. But even like My Heart Will Go On from Titanic, like that really musical tie-in, Lady Marmalade with Moulin Rouge. You don't really get that. Like Dune doesn't have like a big song coming out with Dune.
Bond's really kind of the one that still keeps that flame
Keeps
burning.
that going, yeah.
Like I can't think of like a great and they're like you go back like the 70s and 80s, there were songs like radio staples that you have no idea was actually started as a theme song for a movie. It's pretty crazy. But now that market seems to have dried up, other than kind of like those big ticket franchise type. But even like name me another franchise that always has like a theme song.
No,
Bond's the only one I can think of.
I mean, even Mission Impossible, but that's like just that one song. That's just the Mission Impossible theme. But like the actual music and song tie-in to movies, like that's just not a thing anymore.
No. But pour one out.
Anyway, how do we fix it? How do we fix the portal, the Wild Wild West situation going on? The big thing is, I think, when it comes to is the tampering. And I know that's kind of a hot button term right now. And it's too easy to do. And I'm not going to sit here and frankly call out Brett Larson for saying that it's tampering, that this is happening, but it is a funny coincidence that, that there wouldn't be a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. God, if only there was a spot here in Minnesota, but, or anything like that, just that all of that is just too easily to do. Not saying that he did that. Obviously, I don't know. I don't really care, but it's like all of that situation is like through backdoor channels and advisors. Like if somebody like this is available, would you be interested? Like all of that, like that, I think is the biggest way to fact that you can go into the portal with a no contact tag it already raises so many concerns when it comes to that. So I think that's the biggest thing that needs to be addressed. And the $1 million question that we have for that, how can we fix it? And how can we police that? And that's where it's like, I have no clue, because I think it's just we have too many ways that we could do it right now. And with also all the NIL money that's possibly, being thrown around out there too. It's all of that is incredibly tricky. So I don't know how to fix it, but I do think the big thing is tampering right now when it comes to the portal, because overall I do think the portal is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with your bit about tampering. I don't know what defines tampering. Like if you,
I know it when I see it.
Thanks, Justice Potter Stewart. Google the reference.
Tampering is like pornography is actually what it comes
very good
down to.
You got the reference.
I said the reference. Of course I got the reference.
Because I don't know if talking to an advisor or like the player's dad and having the conversation filter through that third party, if that counts as tampering or not. I don't know. And does it make it better or worse? But it all comes down to enforcement. And I don't know. The players don't seem to be like the player is not going to snitch if they're, so I don't know how the enforcement,
yeah.
I don't know how that would be enforced other than like tapping everybody's phones, which I don't know if that's a great idea to do. So, and I know, was it this year that the NCAA was like issued some, talk about like no way to enforce it, but yeah, you can't, it's a hard and fast rule. You can't talk to anybody until that portal season opens for business. I don't think that was received with like, okay, we're taking it seriously now. You'd think that at the very least, maybe you can you could get rid of the no contact designation, but okay, so they're not going to put the no contact designation, but they're still going to make the same decision, as if they might just have to fend off one or two phone calls from coaches that they know they're just going to say no to. So I don't know if that's going to solve the problem. Then the problem here is the portal. This was all based on the players having the freedom to do this. And I guess there's no way for the genie to get back in the bottle here.
No.
There's
Especially
ways,
if the NCAA keeps losing court cases.
And then I don't know how you dial it back because this isn't like professional sports. I'm not saying that facetiously, because the last couple of years, it's becoming more and more, it seems more professional by the minute when it comes to these quote unquote collegiate sports. But because it's not like a professional league where you have the owners on one side and you have the players in some sort of union on another, there is no collective bargaining going on here. So I don't know how you come to an agreement when there really is no clear-cut two-party system at play here. One, you have the schools, the other, you have the players. Because if you go that route, then all the players are going to be professionals. That would maybe solve it if then you designated like the players as employees. But I don't know if that can even be done because of their quote unquote amateur status. So it seems like if you're going to change it, it's going to have to change the entire structure of what the portal means.
Yeah.
And I don't really think the players are interested in that. And I don't think the schools can. I don't think they have a leverage to do that. Because as you mentioned, they've been losing this is why we're here, is because they've lost all the court battles to get us to this point. So, yeah, I mean, I wish that so I don't know exactly what can be done. Like in my dream world, could there be some restrictions? Certainly with the tampering, you'd think that could be alleviated, lessened in some sense. We've had suggestions. President Trump put out there some sort of 5-year window of college eligibility. I don't know if that includes like redshirt years. That would change things. And a part of that was like limiting to one free transfer during that 5-year window. Other transfers subsequent to that would be subject to the like year sit out of how transfers used to be. I mean, the executive branch has no jurisdiction over the NCAA, though, so I don't think those are suggestions that are going to be readily implemented. So I don't know. I have no idea how this is continue to dial down. And this year, when you have the condensed schedule where it's just 2 weeks, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because this feels more like a wild, wild west situation where it's just you open the horse corral and they all spill out at the same time. Was it better to leak it out over more of a 2-month window or whatever it was prior, month and a half, 6 weeks or roughly? I'm not sure. Maybe this is better. Certainly, I think they did it in part because it was after the Frozen Four. You had a period where the transfer portal was open while other teams' seasons were still underway. I think this is better to open it when everybody's done with the season.
Uh-huh.
But maybe that just gives more time for these kind of tampering, wink, wink, nudge, nudge conversations to happen. And the fact that, we received the news of Berdovich and Henricks. They hit the portal and they're to Minnesota. Like there's no interim period of where they're going to go. It's just known right away. So I don't know. It sounds like you're more like just generally in favor of the portal. I'm not like entirely opposed to it, but I wish it was something where it was like, we'll give you one free transfer. I don't like the multiple years or the unlimited transfer situation. I feel like that's not ideal. But again, like if you try to claw that back, then that's against the students' rights. So it's a difficult push and pull. I don't know a great answer. And the only answer I would have is I've said this about like Larson in previous discussions about the portals, is I just want a coach that's not one, and we've seen these with coaches in other sports quit because they don't want to really engage with the with this kind of newfangled structure of college athletics. I just don't want a coach that's hesitant to dab their toe in the pool because they feel like it's not a system that they approve of. I just want someone that, for better or worse, is willing to use the portal to their advantage. You're always going to lose guys. I think it's going to be regular. You're going to lose some guys every year, and you're going to pick up some guys every year. We saw with Larson, I think for the most part, he had more base hits than grounded in double plays when it comes to the portal. His average was better than he had a better hit rate than a swing and miss rate. If I'm trying to mix all of my baseball metaphors into a hockey context, but I don't know. It's I just want a coach that's open to trying to better their team through it. And we don't have the experience with Oliver. Again, he's been coach for about a day, but we'll see. We'll get to know here in the next couple of weeks how willing he is to engage and how the results shake out. But as far as those big kind of conversations or changes how you do it, I fear that the toothpaste is out of the tube, and I don't think you can really undo it at this point. You can try to regulate it, but I think you're getting into a difficult territory there. So, and if you maybe the what I fear too is the nuclear option. If it does become something that is untenable for schools, or let's say they try to crack down on tampering to the Big Ten schools, let's say detriment, then we're going to get the nuclear option that Buccigross feels is the benefit for the sport, is that the big boys just split off from the NCAA and say we'll play by our own rules and create our own tier of college hockey. I don't want that to happen. So I guess I will look the other way on the kind of tampering that's become regular, as long as we don't get to that point. I'll put it that way, I guess.
Yeah, I do say there's something to be said about, kind of like the Canadian major junior route. Like that goes into a huge discussion about like, why do we have college sports and why not have it as a separate league altogether, where we have it like the CHL, or we have like, so, but at any rate, yeah, it's gonna be tough. I like that you were mixing and matching all your baseball metaphors for your league leading Minnesota Twins. So that's something that I don't think was on your bingo card.
And to my chagrin, it's not the same though. With Baldelli out, I don't even really get that worked up about the Twins anymore.
Will Nick be willing to shave his head in 5 years? When Larson fails to deliver a title, and Gopher's nationwide search again leads 70 miles up north to 94. Again, the head of hair on Nick Oliver. I hope it stays. I hope a couple years in St. Cloud doesn't make him bald. Gotta check what's in the Mississippi if that's the case. Seems like there's a strong feelings for Larson. For Larson, Bernie, and Hendricks, and against Gruba, McLaughlin, Rude, was recruiting a Larson or SCSU issue. How does Oliver stabilize the recruiting situation with sports? And Oliver added, has Schreiner stabilized things? We had a much better week than anticipated. So
can you clarify like the recruiting, is the premise of the question that Larson's recruiting was subpar in St. Cloud?
I think, was it, there's strong feelings for him, like Bernovic and Hendricks, who are following to Minnesota, and against them with Gruba, McLaughlin, and Rude, who have at least St. Cloud State connections that he didn't get, and then are at Minnesota, and then ended up bolting when Larson got there.
Makes sense.
So like, yeah, overall was, recruiting was it, not getting essentially those guys. Is that a Larson issue? Is that an SCSU issue? And then, the second part of the question, about how does Oliver stabilize that? And then, has Holly Schreiner also stabilized thing when we added 3 other sports?
Again, yeah, I said earlier in the show, I think that was a pleasant surprise, that piece of news with those sports reinstated. Again, not what dying athletic departments tend to do, add sports, and then hiring what all by their accounts was their number one target, and not shying away from a hefty salary for a first-time head coach. That sounds like stability, at least as much as we can expect at St. Cloud State, as much as we can expect from a school that has one D1 sport, or 2, I suppose, men's and women's hockey, but hockey being the one sport.
And a president who's been there for a matter of months.
Just a matter of months. And yeah, good splash. If he was part, and I would assume he was part of both the announcement of the reinstatement of golf, and check on that. Was it Nordic? Was it skiing, or was it track? I think it was track and field, but I don't want to give those athletes short shrift, or those future athletes, I should say, because we still need to build the roster and hire coaches and whatnot. But golf, I know, was one on both the men's and the women's side. So yeah, props to Tom So for at least in the early tenure here, staking his claim that he's taking athletics seriously here. That was kind of an unknown with him. Not his previous position, not necessarily athletics driven at West Florida. So him stepping in and making the big decision here of hiring a head coach and then reinstating a couple of programs, those are good results in the short term, and hope to see more of that kind of just energy. That's what I got from him this press conference, was an energy that should, you'd think, rub off in the entire school, in terms of, hey, if we can get that kind of energy going in like the enrollment department as well, that'd be great. Those kind of results would be great, because those kind of results, positive results, would trickle down to athletics with getting more students to the game. One good recipe in getting more students to the hockey games would get just more students on campus, so that those goals dovetail. But
I do expect a alumni letter about the excitement and help support the program. I do expect a donation letter to come in my mailbox.
Get a self-addressed stamped envelope included in that letter with a ticket renewal form. They have my address.
$500, $200, $100, or other amount.
Exactly. Yeah, as far as from that part of the question, and I think Oliver plays into that as well. Just you do see from some of the research I've done is that there tends to be a bump. There can be at least a bump in interest manifested by season ticket sales after the hire of a new coach. Michigan Tech did that. They really benefited when they hired Pearson in, what was that, 2011, 2012, big response and excitement in that fan base upon that hire. And it could be something similar in St. Cloud, maybe not to the extent that it happened in other places, but if they can keep this kind of momentum going, the Oliver hire could feed into the other excitement that we feel about the AD and the department, university as a whole. Hopefully keep that momentum going. And yeah, as far as like the recruiting side of it, it could be part of both. I mean, it's certainly Larson's got something to do with it. He is a personality that I'm sure has a lot of fans. I'm sure has the tendency to turn some people off. I think there also are numbers games to keep in mind, especially with the U, with their being constricted with roster limits. So it might not all boil down to Larson himself. There might be some other considerations, and we're talking about like playing time as well. You might love the coach, but if you're slated into third defensive pairing, which Finn Loftus was okay with, or at least seems to be okay with that kind of prospect. But not everybody is gonna. They might love the coach, but if you're gonna put me on the fourth line, I can find a better opportunity elsewhere. So it's probably a little bit of everything, I think. And I don't see it necessarily on Larson himself, but obviously a head coach, and we're going to see this with Oliver. Head coach has the biggest hand, obviously, in your recruiting footprint and the track record that you can establish and then use as you're building a program. And he's not building it from scratch necessarily. I'm sure he coached USHL 23-24. So, or was that 22-23? 22-23. So, I'm assuming there's still some guys in college that would have played against him or even played for him, as we mentioned, like Gruba. So, there's guys that are, we saw this with Noreen when he took the Miami job. There was guys that played for him and against him at Tri-City. I know there was one, was it Morozov? There was one of their studs that committed because he got that coaching job. So now those connections will fade away as those guys age out. And he was only there in the UCHL for 1 year, but you'd feel like you've established some connections there, not just with players, but also other coaches. So when you're trying to recruit a guy from Youngstown, and Oliver would have coached against Ryan Ward, who's Youngstown's head coach, you can give him a call and ask that coach about the guy that you might have an eye on at the USHL level. Those kind of connections are very valuable, and I think something that Oliver is going to be able to exploit to his advantage. So yeah, there is an unknown in terms of with Oliver as a head coach with his recruiting, but all the indications I have is I'm confident in seeing where it's going to lead us.
Yeah, I agree. I just, we also have to remember that I think Larson, I thought, obviously with the Tyson Grosses, that came in, or the Tyson Gross, I guess that came in, there were also like the Ethan Alcoins. And it's not like, he was, he had a couple of swings and misses when it comes to the recruits, as well. So it's, I think it's just kind of interesting when kind of putting all of that together to see what kind of a recruiter it was, or, if, I don't know, he got a lot of, St. Cloud State is a hard place to recruit to. I hear that narrative all the time, but I don't know. I see a lot of that as more perception than actually being that scary being here. But at any rate, next question. Big thumbs up on the Oliver hire. Even if it doesn't work out, they made a hire that they needed to. How should St. Cloud and other programs handle players who transfer out, eventually make it to the NHL? Do you include them in the NHL alumni wall, but not post on social media for career highlights? Do you still claim players like Bernovic because they play their majority of their careers at SCSU? I feel that's kind of an interesting quandary. I did have a tweet ready to go if Polkamp would have won the Hobie Baker about congratulating Bemidji State. When it comes to that, but yeah, when it comes to like Bernovic, if he does become a mainstay in a couple of years on the Ducks roster, like how would we view him as a St. Cloud State product?
I thought it was a good question as well, because I remember being pretty adamant. I don't think Jacobson was necessarily on this train, but Some chatter that I saw that like Duluth should get partial credit for Isaac Howard's Hobie. Now I think that's a different situation. Like he won the Hobie for his year that he played at Michigan State. I think that's pretty clear. In terms of Howard's in the NHL now, he played 2 years at Michigan State, 1 at Duluth, and 1 pretty struggling year at Duluth. So in terms of, you're not getting a piece of that Hobie. You've got 7 Hobies already. You don't need another 0.5.
0.5
for Isaac Howard.
0.3 repeating for 1/3.
But do you, and it's Duluth, so they've had enough NHL alums at this point. It's not like they're updating their wall of all the players that all of their alumni that have made it to the NHL. But let's just say if they did, like, would you put a guy like him on? Would you consider? Again, it's not like a big honor. It's not like you're retiring a jersey or anything, or he won like a individual award. But
I did almost tweet out that we should take down Matt Cullen's jersey number, though.
Well, I was going to get to that. We had another kind of question as well that I'll dovetail with this question we have now about NHL players, alumni who played in the NHL, and then their continued involvement with the college team. And we did see Cullen, who got hired at the U, not in the general manager role, but something similar. I don't know what his title was, like player development, something like that. Not going to be behind the bench, but more in a development / like quote unquote front office role. Again, this is not professional sports at all. But we've got GMs that are taking over the sport now. But that was a little disappointing to see. I would almost be or not okay with it, but I would understand it more if it was going to be in a coaching position. But the fact that it is sort of an upper level management kind of position for Cullen, it kind of hurts. It's like, what? I mean, I know is it 1 kid or 2 are going? I can never keep the Cullens straight because I know that his brother's got a couple of the Cullens, or one of the Cullens. Mark Cullen's got 1 kid or 2 kids that are going to the U, or I can't rember. 1's going to Duluth, 2 are going.
We need a Cullen flow chart.
We do.
I think actually
we do. I struggle. So I get that aspect of it.
What's Joe Cullen doing anyway?
And maybe when they move on from the U, that was the only thing that was making Cullen interested in that position, was because he's got relatives, either his sons or nephews, that are going to be playing there. But it hurt a little bit because it's like, well, you don't have a personal connection to the Gophers yourself. So that was a little stung, just a tad. I think they're, so yeah, if Bernovic makes it to the NHL, if he plays and that's interesting too, because let's say he just plays this 1 year at the Gophers and then turns pro, that would mean that the majority of his college career would be at St. Cloud. And he's got 1 with the Gophers. And like, he was drafted before he came in. That's another thing. Like, maybe if they're drafted the summer after they debut. Is that the case with Paling? Paling was drafted after his freshman year, right?
Yeah.
So I think in that case, like if Paling put a time machine and Paling was in this era and ends up transferring after his season at St. Cloud, but he was drafted by the Huskies, would that factor more into it? I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's something you put in the media guide based on if anyone played even a single game for the Huskies and then made it to the NHL. But if you're trying to celebrate those guys or pump up their affiliation with your program, I think there's got to be at least a majority of your college career played with St. Cloud or whatever college program you have in mind for this kind of question. But I can see it both ways. And it's going to be a question that we're going to have to grapple with more frequently because we've got so much movement now in the portal. I
will say that I am, because of I do feel that it's kind of an abandonment of the team. That he did jump ship. I am less interested in how he is in the professional ring. I'm not going to follow his first goal. I don't think I'm going to do a Go Huskies woo. But I was pretty pumped up.
No, I get that.
But I am pretty pumped up to see Jack Ashan get in the lineup for today for his game against for the Colorado Avalanche, and almost scored a goal. Had a really nice tip, almost scored. So, but yeah, it's going to be the weird mixed feelings like about the girlfriend that you had that didn't end very well, but like you're still kind of okay with her in your book, and then she goes on and dates somebody else 4 months after you. No, not speaking about personal experience or anything like that, but yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing to kind of grapple with, and I don't know how what we're gonna do to when it comes to that type of situation.
It's weird too because the drafting implications are so different for hockey, in that you can be drafted but still resume your college career having that team have your draft or hold your rights. Whereas other sports it's more cut and dry. Like, do you know who did Troy Aikman go to college, or who did he play for college? Do you know that trivia question answer?
Not a clue.
So most people would say he went to UCLA because that's where he was drafted from. But fun fact, he started his career at Oklahoma. So he had to sit out the year, but he got hurt his freshman year. He was the starting quarterback, got hurt. Oklahoma put in their backup quarterback and ended up winning the national title. So then Aikman transferred because that guy was going to be their starter then because he won the national title. And then he went to UCLA, which is the best thing for him because Oklahoma was like a running, you basically hand off to your running back all game long, not a passing system. And he went to UCLA, broke a bunch of records, and the rest is history. But I think even like hardcore football fans would be surprised that he didn't play his entire career at UCLA. But that's the thing where you're drafted you're drafted immediately after a season, after your college career is done. So there was when they make the draft call on draft day, it's Troy Aikman, quarterback from UCLA. So it's more cut and dry there, where it's different in college when you're actually drafted. And then now, especially with all the movement, it's harder to make that. Do you just go with the last team they played for? Like, it's Isaac Howard making his NHL debut, the Michigan State forward.
Well, I mean, if it's definitely a national broadcast, they'll bring up Big Ten as much as possible. So that's definitely what they're not going to say lowly Minnesota Duluth, and they're 7 Hobie winners now. Last question, I believe, and kind of touched on that from Zach. Not sure where to start with my feelings, kind of a mix of everything. First off, he's really excited. Oliver being the coach. I can't wait to see how it plays off. On the other side, be lying if it wasn't still a little hurt and disappointed about everything that's happened. When Motzko left, that was tough, but with Larson leaving and taking some of our top players with them, that honestly hurts even more now, especially after hearing all season on the coaches show, this is my team, these are my guys. That part just doesn't sit right. Well, I mean, yeah, they are his guys because he's taking them with him. And then another thing about watching the Frozen Four, saw Joe Pavelski around the Wisconsin team, talking to the guys being involved. Got me wondering, St. Cloud has had plenty of players go on to the NHL. Are those guys coming back, staying involved, connecting with the current team? Feels like there could be a huge opportunity, and not for the culture, to have things like NIL support through alumni. At the end of the day, I know our fans a small piece of the puzzle, but it still matters to us. Curious on what's your thoughts on all of this. So first and foremost, Zach kind of talking about the difference with Motzko and Larson. He's, just with the transfer portal being open and Larson taking his guys. It's so he's feeling a little more hurt like this. I was feeling more hurt about Motzko with, again, how he left, not the fact that he did leave. But it does open up kind of an interesting question. If the portal was around when Motzko left, how many of those guys do you think would have followed? And obviously we're looking at, some of the best seasons in Husky hockey history. But does Jimmy Schultz leave? Newell leave? Do I look at them, completely differently? Easton, or
Paling,
so just
I wonder if the same conversation would be in place in terms of we got to look out, especially for the drafted players.
Yeah.
And I think at that point it was Ryan Paling, Schultz was, I believe, or maybe he wasn't. I can't remember. I know that he played a game for Vegas, but maybe he signed right after the season. I can't remember. I can't even remember this past weekend, much less, what was that, 8 years ago? So,
you were in Vegas and drinking, so I bet.
No, I was sober. I was stone cold sober the entire weekend. Don't you know?
Oh, sure enough.
But I wonder if that would be the same. The similar flight risks would be circle the guys that have NHL logo by their name on the roster. And in a sense, I mean, I don't know if I could say that I'm hurt because I was expecting this. I mean, Loftus was a surprise, but I was anticipating Bernovic and Henriks. And we even talked about it after the season. So it was before any of the Minnesota rumors with Larson. Like that first show after the end of the season, we had our big conversation in terms of it was is Gross gone or not? But we were just generally talking about flight risks, and we circled those guys, those draft picks. Not that they were necessarily going to transfer, but are they going to sign a pro deal? And I brought up Henriks too, and I said, I don't think he's going to transfer. If he were, I would look out for Western because that's where his brother is playing. So we brought up all these names, and so in a sense, like the Bernovic Hall and those two in particular hurt less because or at least I can compartmentalize it a little bit because I can just put in my mind as if they just signed in the pros. And the fact that St. Cloud won't play the Gophers next year, they're kind of, it's kind of like Colin Relf. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. Like I don't need to worry about them anymore. I'm sure I'm going to be, coming across a Austin Bernovic clapper on social media, some highlight of him on the power play. And I'll quickly scroll by it. But other than that, it's a team that plays in a different conference that, again, it's not on St. Cloud's schedule. So what do I care? And I can process it saying he could just be with the Ducks AHL team. It's same difference really. He's just the difference is he's not on St. Cloud's roster. So maybe that's just me coping. Very, very, very true. It's very much a possibility, but it just makes it easier for me to kind of process that, I guess. And again, it doesn't make it hurt less, but it's one way that I can handle it, I guess. But in terms of like the NHL, I'm talking about from the last question in terms of guys like Cullen. We've, Hedekin, he seems to, it's not like he's intimately connected with the university. I'm sure there's a good reciprocal relationship with both Brett and Christy Yamaguchi. Don't want to forget about her. She's one of the namesakes. Yep. Was that Defender of the Year. So, retired his number, and he's always spoken well of St. Cloud State. The parishes obviously have maintained relationships with St. Cloud over the years. I wonder too, like how guys, like current guys, like is Nick Dowd, is he in contact? Maybe he will with Oliver. I mean, Dowd wouldn't have had any connection with Larson, but he definitely does have a connection with Oliver. They would have played together for the Huskies. Guys like Blake Lizotte. Lizotte would have played under Oliver when Oliver was an assistant at least 1 year, right? Yeah, he would have been on that 18-19 team. So, some of these current Huskies, Charlie Lindgren, I wonder if maybe there's an outreach that a guy like Oliver can do that Larson either wasn't in the best position to do or just wasn't doing for any other reason. And if does that move the needle at all in the locker room? I feel like it could. I do think that's a more realistic landing spot for college players than it ever has before these days. And if you can show guys who are not just in the league, but having success, long-term success in the league, I think that can boost morale, and it can also be a good feather in your cap for recruits and trying to retain guys from going into the portal, things like that. So again, I think Oliver's a good guy to have in place if that's seen as a valuable tool. So yeah, I like that idea and wanting those NHL alums to remain connected.
I think a lot of that also has to do with, sure, it's Joe Pavelski and the type of career that he had in the NHL, but also Wisconsin, who has been a D1 program for, decades more than St. Cloud has. And so like when you look at the predominant NHL players and, for St. Cloud State, you can kind of count them on one hand. And, one of those phalanges probably belonged to Frank Brimzek, and he's not helping you at all with recruiting. So it's, when we're kind of looking at all of, from that point of view, it's like, you had the early aughts, and, as it, you can make the argument, I guess, that the most successful professional player during that time, we're kind of looking at, and I can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
Tyler Arneson?
No, Matt Hendricks. Who had a hugely long career, but he wasn't a Joe Pavelski type by any means. So now you're just getting to the part with, some of Motzko's recruits that, are having a good NHL career. Dowd, obviously one of them. I think, in the future, once they start turning the page on their career and they get, I think they will be very active in trumpeting St. Cloud State as, especially as a place where, Nick from Alabama Huntsville coming in as an under the radar type guy and played some time in the null and then, was able to get up and had a chance and made a long NHL career, have that kind of backstory. And I can definitely see that happening. Eventually it's just, we're not there yet. We don't have a real prominent NHL, as much as I would love Jeff Finger to be that, figurehead for St. Cloud State, I don't know how much that's going to resonate to everybody. Not everyone can get a fat Toronto contract like he did.
First of all, the props on using phalanges and Frank Brimsek in the same sentence.
Who would have thought, right? Not me.
This might, it kind of rings familiar in my brain. So tell me if we haven't already done this, but good summer podcast topic. Maybe we can get some guests or people to email in some suggestions, but Mount Rushmores of St. Cloud State hockey. Give me your top four.
Jeff Finger four times.
Other than that, give me the four heads on the Mount Rushmore. That can be players. It can be like Herb Brooks. It can be coaches. It can be whoever you want to. It can be Brandon McDonald, the president, who they went D1. I'm just trying to say, it can be any figure related to St. It could be Chuck Clausen. Whoever you think is worthy of being the four heads on the stone carvings of our St. Cloud State Mount Rushmore. That might be a good summer podcast episode. And again, we might have already done that, but if not, we should, because we always need some good ideas for summer pods.
That's I kind of like that idea. Yeah. So
I'll put it down in my good ideas folder.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, obviously, we got, Cullen, Hedekin, you talked about Parrish. Matt Hendricks, Ryan Malone. I think also you can kind of put in there. But those were kind of the legacy from, when we started in that early aughts really starting to rise. But then you got a lot of players that are still playing. Will Borgen's still playing. Nick Jensen, Johnny Brodzinski. I think eventually those will be. It's just going to take more time.
This has to be the time that has the most Husky alums concurrently playing in the NHL.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Other than, I'm sure, Tim Conboy, like there was guys that got sniffs in like the early to mid aughts that maybe were for, Joe Motzko, maybe all those
Doobie Westcott.
Combined. Correct. Like maybe they all combined to overlap more so than now, but at least from the impact, like regular season long regular players, this might be the most. I would suspect that it's the most, and that should be celebrated. Again, like if you're talking about NHL is a realistic end spot now for college hockey, and has been for a while. And if that's what these players are eyeing, pump that up, emphasize that, and have these guys continue to preach that message. Especially like a guy like Lizotte, you'd think too. Like Lizotte does not scream NHL player in terms of like his player profile, size. But look at what he was able to do. Look at how he was able to grow at St. Cloud State, and then like immediately go in the NHL and not really miss a beat. Like he's not a star player, but he's a regular. Yeah. And that should be something that I think would be attractive to a lot of guys who should be on St. Cloud's radar in terms of like upcoming recruits and whatnot. So yeah, I love the idea.
Yep. And then is that all the questions, I believe?
Those are the two emails. The last two that you mentioned were the two emails that I got. So.
Yep. And that's all my other socials. Okay. Quickly, I guess, Frozen 4, ho-hum, Denver wins another one. I was incredibly, I guess to keep up pumping Oliver's tires, I was completely impressed with Wisconsin. I thought they were tenacious all weekend, really disrupting with the forecheck. And even Denver for 2 periods had 5-6 shots on goal, something like that.
I believe.
Yes. 5, and it was 1-0, and you just kind of knew Denver was going to pull it out there. It's like, I've seen this before. And then sure enough, they tie it up with Riga Lorenz right in front. And I'm like, they're going to end up squeaking this game out in Denver fashion. And it's just, it's a bummer for Hastings to get to the national title game again and end up falling. But another notch in the belt of the bedpost for the NCHC. So it's overall, what were your thoughts? How was Vegas? Did you meet any fans of the show? Did you everyone point out, hey, St. Cloud State, yay, or did nobody else really care?
There was, I'm not saying that there was as many St. Cloud State fans there as like North Dakota fans. Clearly not. Hard to do that. But there was, I don't know, I probably saw at least a dozen to 15 St. Cloud State jerseys, a couple of groups. So not just like one or two. And I did meet Dan Jacobson in the flesh.
Oh,
He
there we
came
go.
up to me, which I'm wondering how he knows what I look like. But like I said, I wasn't the only St. Cloud State fan there. So he took a swing and he
could have
correct.
he could have asked about 7 other people by there. It's like, nope.
Also
Next.
met the famous Bidco in
I met
between
Biddy.
his many jumbotron hits. He's a crowd pleaser. I think the video board camera operator, they get to him just naturally. He's got a natural attraction to that. So they got a picture of me. Dan Jacobson, can you burn that picture? I don't want to have that evidence floating out there.
You don't want that floating around?
Please and thank you. The games were. I'm glad that I scratched a Frozen 4 off my list. I will say Vegas is really not for me. I'm probably in the minority when I say that. It's not like I thought the Frozen 4 itself was well put on. I thought the venue was very good in terms of the T-Mobile Arena. I thought nice arena, not the best arena. I thought the bathroom lines were too long. They could have used a couple more bathrooms, I think. But no complaints. The sight lines, we sat in a couple of different spots. Sight lines were great. The first night, it was bad because I'm just buying these tickets on secondary market. So I don't know exactly where we're sitting. Get there, like we're on somewhat of the aisle, but you got the stairs here and the section immediately to the right. That's where the North Dakota band is. And I'm like, we really hit the lottery here and not in a good way.
Yeah, they were probably pretty quiet, though.
They were very quiet that game. That was the upshot of Wisconsin kind of dominating that game, or at least keeping them off the scoreboard for as long as they did. And then I'm thinking, well, all right, then they're done with this game. So then the nightcap, that section will be no more tubas and band equipment to deal with. But no, that's where they set the Michigan band up. And several Michigan fans populate the section immediately. In our section and also that other student band section. And I'll say this, and I mean this as an insult. The Michigan band and the Michigan fans, on the whole, are more annoying than the North Dakota fans were in our immediate vicinity. Now they have more to cheer for. Perhaps that's why they were more annoying. But I will say they do this thing. Apparently they do it at Yost. I don't remember them doing this when I was out there last year. But they do this thing where if the other team is on a power play, so Michigan's killing the penalty, and if Michigan clears the puck, they ice the puck down to the other end. The other team is kind of like regrouping in their own zone. The Michigan fans do this thing like boop, boop, boop. I'm trying to do that as softly as possible. It's probably way too loud, but they do that, and everyone does that. And I hope what I just did the 3 times there, you're like, stop it, shut up. But they did that time and time and time again. And it's like, I'm sure this would kind of rattle another team or be really annoying when you're at Yost and it's a small arena. But this is section 220 or whatever. Like, no one's hearing you do this at the Vegas Golden Knights arena. So the only effect it really had is that it just annoyed the neutral fans that were like, what the hell are you doing?
I really feel that way with North Dakota keep standing until the first whistle. Like, that annoys me.
This is more annoying. Just from my
I mean that's true because it's just the opening
size.
face-off until the first whistle. They keep standing, that doesn't happen the rest of the game. Whereas, if that happens every power play clearing, I can understand that being annoying.
Yeah, just in general, I thought that the Michigan fans were pretty obnoxious. Denver, I'm getting sick of it. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
it's enough. Like, I saw some stat like the last 7, I think it's their last 7 games in the Frozen Four, they've been outshot every game, and they're 6-1 with 3 natties in that stretch. And they were like 52-20 something against Michigan. They got outshot.
Yeah.
2-1 ratio against Wisconsin, got outshot. I mean, and it's all envy. I will be the first to admit. But it's like, can we just get like 1 year of that kind of puck luck? And I know it's not like puck luck is what got them to the Frozen Four, but it's like, geez, you play a kind of average game in both games, but still are able to win both. It's like, geez, I'd love to have those kind of results for the kind of game that you played. I mean, yeah, they're a juggernaut, but it's just, I don't know. Is it that good for the game if a team wins this frequently in a sport that's got apparently a lot of parity, but yet we get the same champion 3 times out of 5 years. Carl's guys got something going right there, clearly,
Yeah.
but
And
I was rooting for Wisconsin, and my fandom for Wisconsin very short lived. And it felt dirty doing it, but I was rooting for them, and I was kind of getting upset there when I, like you, saw it coming.
yeah.
And sure enough, Denver that sort of that Wisconsin again, they were controlling play, and I'm not even calling it like a true trap that they were doing, because it was an aggressive form of it where they did this like 5 or 6 times in the first 2 periods, where they would have a defenseman step up and intercept a pass in the neutral zone and create transition that way. And so it was not a passive play. And then they would continue. It's not like they were just doing dump and chase the entire time. It was effective, but it's kind of one of those things. You saw this in the 22 title game with Mankato against Denver as well, also taking a 1-0 lead in that third period before it went pear-shaped. It seems like it's one of those recipes that you can work to perfection for 2 periods, but then doing it over 60 minutes is just another steeper task that, at least in Hastings' experience, hasn't been able to pull it off either time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll say just the Vegas as a venue, just not my style, but I'll accept that as a me problem more than anything. I appreciated the trip because I haven't had that kind of one-on-one time with my dad in a while. And
that's nice, isn't it?
I don't know if I'll have another 3-day weekend with him, with just me and him. So cherish that opportunity. He did a Andrew move though. I got home yesterday because I drove. He flew because he's still in Minnesota. I'm a 6-hour drive for me down to Arizona, and I got home all fine and hadn't spoken to him after he left, after I dropped him off at the airport. And then I spoke to my brother, and he's like, yeah, apparently he booked his return flight for Saturday, and he got to the airport on Sunday for his return flight.
Oh, no.
And a little bit of a snafu. But he was able to get on a standby. It's like 8 hours in the Vegas airport, but he was able to get home finally. But that's a move. I haven't made that particular move, but I'm surprised I haven't made that particular move yet. And knowing that he is my dad, I'm just looking forward to the first time that I actually do bungle that kind of move. But that aside, the weekend was a thrilling success.
Oh, that's good. And we are quite over, but this was a lot. But we had a lot to go over, and we got one more bit. As this has been sitting next to me
tonight, capping it off, not leading it off, capping it off.
This is the nightcap here. So we are going Denmark. Enar's distillery, 5 years, matured in bourbon and Oloroso casks. I don't know what Oloroso are.
I think it's a wine. I think.
Ooh, okay.
Oloroso.
Yep.
I think that's been in a crossword or two.
I was gonna say, do you put it in your crossword? That's a lot of vowels.
I don't know
It's a lot
about my
of O's.
crossword, but that's a good crossword word.
It's a Will Shorts thing.
It is a Shorts thing. Denmark. Who's your go-to Denmark Husky? Oliver Lauritsen or Patrick Russell?
Patrick Russell.
I think I would agree.
Patrick Russell's mom still follows me on Twitter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe she's listening. Hi, Patrick Russell's mom.
Well, I will go ahead and give you a review of your whiskey. It is pretty good. 7.2.
The initial reaction, I didn't think it was going to be that high.
Yeah.
So that's good. Can you taste like a wine, some wine notes?
No, I can definitely taste the wine to it. It's got, I kind of cringe when I say it. It's kind of got that wine mouthfeel is the best way kind of to describe it.
I think they call that astringency.
Is that in a crossword?
It's not a word you can say a couple beers deep, but
I don't think I could say it now.
Oloroso is a variety of sherry fortified wine, and it means scented in English.
Nice.
So it must be very aromatic.
And Patrick Russell's mom's name is Christine, by the way.
It's like the least Danish name ever. Patrick Russell, Christine. Doesn't mean you're not actually Danish.
Maybe that's what she just goes by. Maybe we can't pronounce her actual Danish name. But
well, we appreciated the efforts of Patrick Russell and Oliver Lauritsen. After that struggling freshman year of his, he found his game after that. I think both of them made NHL appearances. I know Lauritsen did. I think Russell may have played in a game or two. Edmonton, I'm going to say. But I think they both appeared in the pros. We're doing a late fact check.
Edmonton sounds right. I think he played one season at Edmonton.
Oh, I was going to say like one or two games, like parts of one season, but
no, he played at least a season.
Did he? Well, now we do have to fact check it.
Okay, hold on.
By the way,
I know you talked about Ryan Poehling not too long ago, and he played one game for Montreal and scored 3 goals in that game.
In his first
and then including a shootout winner too. So I remember,
which doesn't count, right? So he had the three goals and a shootout winner.
4 pucks found the back of the net that he shot.
It's not a bad debut.
Mm-hmm.
I've got I got 6 games in one season in 18-19, and then 45 for Edmonton in 19-20, and then another 8 in 2021.
And so still playing.
Yeah, still playing in Europe.
Germany.
Yeah, and he's played for the last couple Olympics teams.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what is that? 59 NHL games, 0 goals. Which is a bar.
Yeah. No, those Edmonton teams too.
30 goals combined in his 2 years at St. Cloud. And came in as a 21-year-old freshman.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
Lucia.
So, well, do you think we talked enough?
Danny Jacobson's still listening with rapt attention. We know that. Burn that photo, Dan.
Yep, exactly. And to everybody else still listening, thank you. We appreciate you so much, and I'm ready for another season. We might have a little bit of a new look to it. We're gonna have some new bits. If you guys have any ideas, new topics already, Andrew spitballed Mount Rushmore of Jeff Finger or any other one. I guess
it's Mount Finger. How about that?
Mount Finger.
It's Mount Finger.
Mount Finger.
It's Mount Finger. So we don't. He's not he's not the head. He's not going to be a single head on the mountain, but the whole mountain
He's
is
elevated
named
past that.
Yes.
So he's the
mountain named after him.
omnipotence presence.
Now this has to be a bit.
Now I can't. I think the whiskey has gotten to me now. Maybe there's something more into this Danish whiskey than the wine.
We want to have one of the blackout podcast. That's another one of the summer podcasts. Is the blackout podcast.
I don't know if I could do that one again. So that about does her. This episode. We again, thank you to everyone. I am Weldie at More Clappers, MOAR More Clappers. Andrew, you can find him at
Andrew SCSU HHP on X. Huskies Hockey Podcast at gmail.com. We had a couple of emails, so we always like to get those emails. Please send in any questions or comments. Got the Substack Cloud Coverage Hockey. I'm going to do something this week on kind of the coaching search, but just some coaching history with St. Cloud State and how this Oliver hire stacks up. I've still got my regional piece. I'm just going deep dive. So a lot more research. So you be patient on that. That's going to come, but it might be a little bit because I'm doing a lot more research that I originally intended to do. But I want to get a piece out, and I'll have one regarding St. Cloud State coaching just over the years, all the other coaching changes, and kind of describe how this one fits into that overall context. So hopefully that'll be out by the next podcast.
Perfect. Sounds great. Until next time, go Huskies. Woo.